1,000 people have died on both sides. Israel is calling this its own 9/11, telling the world that the highest number of Jews have been killed on a single day since the Holocaust. At least 150 people have been taken hostage by Hamas. The people of 36 nationalities have either died or are missing. Meanwhile, besieged Gaza has gone dark. There's no electricity, no food, no medicines, no fuel. Houses have been flattened, hospitals have been flattened, mosques have been flattened. Above all, this is a story of human tragedy. Here's a quick recap of what has happened since that Hamas terror attack on the 7th of October.
It began on the 7th of October when Hamas fired thousands of rockets at Israel. Hamas militants used these rockets as a cover to enter Israeli territory. Neighborhoods were raided. A music festival was attacked. Israelis were killed and kidnapped, and so were people of other nationalities. Hamas branded it Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. The attack coincided with the Israeli holiday of Simchat Torah. Israel was taken by surprise. It responded by declaring total war.
Since this morning, the state of Israel has been at war. Our first objective is to clear out enemy forces that infiltrated our country and restore security. Make no mistake, we are at war.
The Israeli Defense Forces struck Gaza. At least 426 targets were hit overnight. A mosque was destroyed. Housing blocks were flattened. On the 9th of October, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant ordered a total blockade of Gaza. It meant no food would be allowed to enter Gaza. No fuel trucks would be allowed to enter Gaza. No exception would be made for medicine or aid. The same day, Hamas fired another barrage of rockets. One of these rockets landed near Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport. On the 10th of October, IDF announced that it was mobilizing up to 360,000 reservists. Israeli warplanes struck several Gaza neighborhoods. Among the houses destroyed was that of Mohammed Deif, the mastermind of the Hamas attack. Israel has given him a nickname, the new Osama bin Laden. On the 10th of October, Dave's father, brother, and at least 2 other relatives were killed. This did not stop Hamas from carrying out another incursion into Israel. This time, it was the town of Ashkelon. On the 11th of October, Israel formed an emergency war government. Hamas continued firing rockets into Israel as the latter struck sites in Gaza. The same day, Gaza's only power plant ran out of fuel. Parts of Gaza went dark. The next day, Gaza's health ministry announced that the number of dead in Gaza had crossed 1,400. 447 of them were children. Israeli Minister of Energy and Infrastructure announced that Israel will not lift the Gaza blockade until hostages are safely returned. At least 150 people are being held hostage in Gaza. Hamas claims these hostages have been spread across the Gaza Strip. On Friday, Israel gave Gazans an ultimatum. They gave them 24 hours to move south in Gaza.
The United Nations strongly appeals for any such order to be rescinded, avoiding what could transform what is already a tragic situation into a calamitous situation.
Before the day ended, reports began emerging of Israeli military carrying out localized raids in Gaza.
And joining me now to give us a sense of what's actually happening on the ground is WION's Jody Cohen. She's on the ground in Israel, Ra'anah, and earlier this week, she was nearly hit by a Hamas rocket. Let me play out that clip for you before we talk to her.
I just finished my live, and now I'm having to run to take shelter even know where the shelter is. Okay, I'm in the building, but I don't know where the shelter is. Slicha, Efo shelter? Okay, down to me. What? Okay. I'm in the shelter. There's other people here. So where we are, in Renana, we have a minute and a half to get to the shelter. People down south in the border communities, they have sometimes as little as 3 or 4 seconds. So they literally sleep in shelters, in their stairwells, wherever they can to get as close as possible to shelter as quickly as possible.
Jody, those are really scary pictures. Must be tough out there reporting in that situation, dealing with the stories of tragedy that are all around you. And the mood in Israel must be really, really somber right now.
Hi, Vikram. Yes, so it's certainly very different from when you were in Israel just a few short months ago. It's not an easy situation. There are rockets being fired across Israel, including at central Israel right now as we speak. I've been spending a lot of time in shelters like this one. It's scary when the siren goes off, especially as you've just seen when I'm out filming and have to run to a shelter. I know many people are on edge. If you hear a door slam, if you hear a motorbike engine. The other day I was doing an interview with Priyanka on Gravitas, and mid-sentence I jumped because I heard a plane overhead, but I thought it was the beginning of a siren sounding. People are exhausted. Every family in Israel knows someone who's been killed or injured or is missing. The reports are horrific coming from places like Be'eri and Kfar Aza, where Hamas killed elderly people, women, young children and even babies in cold blood. There's also a sense that the country is rallying together. Every community, perhaps even every family, is doing whatever they can, like packing supplies for people in the southern communities, packing care packages for soldiers. The soldiers appear to be extremely motivated after the horrors that they have seen. And there's also general support for dismantling Hamas, which, as we know, has been designated a terrorist organisation by several countries. There's also faith here that the Israel Defence Forces will defend Israel while taking as many precautions as possible to try and protect Palestinian civilians as well. And there are also heartwarming stories of many people in the centre of Israel opening their homes to complete strangers from the south and from the north to help people get further away from Hamas and Hezbollah.
Okay, Jody, now tell us about the latest situation. What's actually happening on the ground there?
So there have been more rockets fired into Israel and also infiltration attempts in the north and south. We also know that more than 1,300 buildings are said to have been destroyed in Gaza, and the IDF says that behind every strike is a Hamas target. Now, in terms of the hostages, the IDF says it's the most difficult hostage situation it's ever faced. There's reportedly no word from the Red Cross on the welfare of the hostages, and Israel has sent elite units to Gaza and has said that it's found bodies of dozens missing and have brought those back to Israel. There are hostages from 30 countries taken by Hamas, and the IDF says it's gathering intelligence on the other hostages' locations. It's also thought that there will be a ground offensive, and Israel has warned civilians in northern Gaza to move to southern Gaza. Israel's announced evacuation corridors today to give time for civilians to move. The IDF is also saying that Hamas is booby-trapping the streets to try and stop Palestinians from leaving. And Israel says it's doing what it can to save Palestinian lives while trying to defeat Hamas, which the US has called worse than ISIS and Al-Qaeda.